Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Mansur Hasib, and this is one more episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity. And today we have award-winning children's author Medea Kalantar from Canada.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show Dr. Mansur. It's so wonderful to see you again and seeing all the wonderful things that you're doing on your show. I'm really excited to be here and have a great topic with you today. So I'll do a quick intro. My name is Medea Kalantar. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I am a Reiki master and practitioner. I'm also a Guinness Book World Record holder for most amount of authors signing the same book simultaneously. And I'm a children's book author as well, award-winning book author, bestseller. I wrote these books actually when I found out I was going to become a grandmother. So when my daughter told me she was pregnant, I started to bake a honey cake and in honor of my own grandmother, my baby. And when I was making the cake, I was looking at all the different ingredients and spices, and it made me think of my future grandchild. So, because I'm from Georgia, my husband's Persian, and then my daughter's fiance is Guyanese and Jamaican. So my future grandchild has all these different ethnicities. And the same with the honey cake, it has all these different rich ingredients. And that's how the title of the series came along. Everyone in the books is actual people of my family. The only fictional character is Nala, the main character, because when I wrote the book, I didn't know what my daughter was having. She ended up having a little boy. His name is Lokenzo Kalkaraya. And each story is to educate, enlighten, and inspire and empower children and families. They'll have wonderful metaphors about diversity, about kindness, about mindfulness to overcome anxiety, about honest and open communication, and also about gratitude. So I thought it was very important to have these wonderful topics, but at the same time, have a way that children can understand, and also a way to kind of remind parents gently about the core values that we need to build a strong foundation with our children from our early age. And I know this was such a powerful message for you, Dr. Mansur, and I was very lucky enough that Dr. Mansur is also a family friend, and I was honored to meet him last year at a wonderful event where he was honored with a couple of great awards. And I've never had anyone read my book except for him first. I always give you my books first. I said, I want to know your opinion. And he's always been so generous and so gracious and a wonderful mentor. And I'm so honored and grateful to be here with you today.
Well, that is a wonderful introduction. Actually, as I mentioned to you and in my reviews I wrote,
Yes.
Your books reminded me of my own childhood, growing up and reading the Greek, I guess, children's book author Aesop's fables.
Yeah.
Every one of these fables had to do with animals and other things, but they taught us a valuable lesson, a value, like being good to others, honesty, or treating people the same way as you would treat yourself and things like that.
Correct.
And then I just saw that what you were doing is literally updating that same message and bringing it relevant, making it relevant to our time using different, because at this time in our society, we are a lot more intercultural, and this whole concept of who is what race is almost disappearing, although there are some people that don't seem to get it yet. But in general, that is what is happening. It's very hard to define who is what.
Exactly.
So I was one of those people that always used to fill in the form. Where it says race, I would put human.
That's right. That's the whole thing. And that's what, like the first book says, that no matter where you come from, what color your skin is, we're all one race, and that's the human race. At the end of the day, we all have a little spice inside of us. We're all honey cakes, like my t-shirt says, I'm a honey cake, and that's the beauty of it. We have to take the focus off who we are culturally or the color, and just focus that we're all human beings and kindness is a gift we can all afford to give, and just be kind to one another and accepting, and the world will be such a better place for it.
Sure, sure. So what topics did you want to talk about today? So that is absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to see you, and I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
meeting you last July.
Thank you. So what I wanted to talk about is, well, with the lockdown that's happened and people being stuck at home and not really knowing what to do, what I've done is I've actually started doing Facebook Live readings to children, offering, to teachers and to parents, because like they're stuck with their kids now, for how many hours a day instead of just, the short span of them going to school. Now, how are they going to entertain their children? So I started a small little series, with Facebook Live. And my question to you is, because you're so innovative and you're the type of person that you can make lemonade from lemons. Like, you throw anything at you and you got this. Like, no problem. COVID-19, no problem. I got this. I'll make it away. So my question to you was, how did you start your platform with DrCybersecurity, and why did you start with LinkedIn? Because like most people, like I do, has Facebook and Instagram. So that was the question I wanted to ask you. And how can you highlight for people who are looking to do the same as you? What kind of advice can you offer them?
Sure, that's a great question, actually. One of the things about, I guess, building your brand or choosing your primary platform often is that what are the kinds of people that you're trying to interact with? Because it's all about building relationships in a community.
Absolutely.
So my community primarily exists on LinkedIn.
Right.
This is the professional business community. A lot of the cybersecurity professionals, educational professionals, technology professionals, those and executives of all sorts. So they seem to exist there. You probably won't find them on Facebook or things like that. And if you do, they're probably just interacting with their family business. I myself don't accept any business connections on Facebook. So
Right.
it depends. I guess in your case, though, your book and your community is a lot different.
Right.
And while you will probably find a community that resonates with you on LinkedIn, the platforms that I see you going into
Right.
already seems to be working for you. You are
Yeah.
very active on Goodreads. I'm seeing that.
Yes.
I'm seeing that you're very active on Twitter. You
Yes.
do these writer lifts every now and then.
Yes. Yes.
So you're helping all the other writers build their connection base.
Yes.
And in doing so, you're getting known and you're built. So I think that a lot depends on that. In my case, once I started the LinkedIn thing, and then this hashtag DrCybersecurity, how did that come about? Because
Yeah.
that, again, you depended on the community.
Yes.
I wasn't sure what would be a decent hashtag for me, but
Yes.
one day I saw this young woman named Marissa Cali, and she is like the founder of a company called All the Social. So she
Okay.
is like the social media strategist. And she was just offering this service that day that, hey, if you want me to give you a hashtag, just share your profile with me, reach out to me. So I did.
That's awesome.
And yes, so she is the one who came up with this. Oh, and it didn't even take her much time. She said, "You're Dr. Cybersecurity."
There you go. And and it's born. A talk show host, Dr. Cybersecurity. When the COVID is over, you'll be having millions and millions of followers. I can see it for sure. You will. Believe it, you'll happen. So the other question I had is that, because you're also an award-winning author, by the way, and I love that when I first started, I came to you with a lot of advice, questions, and you gave me some great advice. So with people who were wanting to like go into the next level, become a speaker, for instance, because you travel around the world and you're speaking among hundreds of people, sometimes large groups. How do you go about Like, what kind of connections do you have to make in order to become a speaker and actually be paid to go to these events?
Once again, it's connections and
Right.
community, because there are organizers. So one of the things that I would do is look at the conferences where I would like to speak, who's
Hmm.
organizing the conference, try to
Right.
make a connection with the organizer,
Right.
see, and then of course build a speaker portfolio and a
Right.
page, a single page, hopefully with your speaker bio and things like that, and also some videos and previous talks where you've given citations and then recommendations and things like that, to try to get on their radar and see if they
Hmm.
will bring you in.
Hmm.
And then, of course, delivering. So initially, you're not going to get paid. What's
Of
going to
course.
happen initially is you're going to get known, and you're going
Yes.
to get known at what kind of quality speeches that you give. So
Right.
I am fanatic about my quality. So, and
Right.
that is
Right.
why I'm still very active at Toastmasters.
Yes.
So one of the things that I have done with my speechcraft is, you can probably see me give a 20-minute speech or a 3-hour speech. You probably won't hear me say, um, uh, you know, all these things at all.
Right.
Very, very rare. That's something that is trained. And so what happens when you do that? What happens when you make those defects in your speech is that the audience, their brain cannot handle all those interruptions. It has to
Hmm.
filter it out. So you're
Right.
making their brain work harder when you have these speech defects. I call
Right.
them speech defects because they are. It's like a
Hmm.
musician going out of tune
Right.
during a performance, right?
Right.
If you really want to get paid and you want to go high quality, then you also have to tailor the message to the audience. So
Correct.
I talk to the organizers, and usually I go and sit in the audience, kind of feel the audience a little bit. Who are they?
Hmm.
What's going to resonate? So, and I have to tailor my message to them,
Right.
specific to them. The
Right.
greatest example was when I went to speak at the Elevate Women International Conference in
Yes.
Ottawa,
Yes.
and at Solang and Rima's invitation over there. Well, by sitting in the audience for the first half of the day, I was able to figure out what might resonate with them, because what I was seeing was that a lot of people were talking about the problem, but they were not really addressing the main issue, which is that
Right.
they are playing somebody else's game.
Right.
So I said, wait a minute, you don't realize you have to build your own game. You have to create your own game. And when you are the creator of your own game, guess what? You are the only player.
That's right.
So even this series that I'm doing, Conversations with
Yeah.
Dr. Cybersecurity, pretty much I'm the only game in town right now in this, right? So
Yes.
as long as nobody else comes with something better or even
Yes.
equivalent, I'm the only game in town.
That's a pivotal message, I think, because I think what you did was you shifted the mood of the audience
Yes.
from feeling this mundane of everybody's being the same, and you woke them up. You gave them something that they've been longing for. And I think that's really important. That's such a valuable lesson right there. For everybody that's listening, pay attention, take notes. That's a key ingredient there,
Yes.
because a lot of people think it's just only about talking. It's also about listening,
Yes.
listening and being observant and reading people's body language. And it's because a lot of people think that it's just about getting their brand, getting their message. You also have to kind of get off. You can't just have this rigid schedule.
Right.
You have to be able to bounce off what people are feeling, and
Not
that's
only that,
that's what you exactly do.
but we also have to view it as entertainment.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, even though people are looking for a message that is tailored to them, that is
Yes.
useful to them, but at the same time, they also want to be entertained a little bit, maybe laugh a little, some
Yeah.
humor, some connection. The
Yeah.
other thing is that I believe speakers need to be accessible to the people. So it's not about me, big shot, coming there, doing my speech, and then shoving off because I gotta catch another flight. You will never
Right.
see me do that. You will see me
No.
come to a conference
Age.
basically to build relationships.
That's right.
Okay, and I don't take two events on the same day for that same
Yeah.
same reason, because I want to pay attention to the people who have invited me, and I want to stay, I want to be available, I want to network, I want to sign books, whatever they want me to do, I'm happy to do. So I
That's
mean, naturally,
yeah. That's
I did three events for that same conference
yes.
at the same price. So it's like
Yeah. And
that's
it's true because I've seen you in action. So like you talk the talk and you walk the walk because I've seen you. Like you go around, you don't just sit in your table, you go around, you make sure you talk to everyone and shake their hand and bring this way. Hey, do you know this person? And you even build relationships with other people who are a little bit shyer to speak forward because you're such a wonderful person that way. I feel that, you know, you're such a great gatekeeper to opening relationship for others too, because you know, you're all about giving. You're the most wonderful person I know. Uh,
so
and
that's
I'm so
another thing
honored.
that you are also seeing that, because see, you are also doing some of that, the
Yes,
connections between people. Because if people can be a glue among people, that is most amazing. Because sometimes I am not the right solution for somebody, but if I introduce that person with another person who can be their solution,
yes,
then that's magic, right? And at the end of
absolutely.
the day, I'm still building more and more relationships. So to me,
Absolutely.
that is very, very important. So anyway, we are pretty much down to our last topic and question. So what else do you want to talk about, Medea? This has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. So, you know what? You hit everything on the mark as I thought you would.
Okay.
I want to also talk about with my children's book series because I'm so passionate about it. And my mom jokes around that you're the honey cake of cybersecurity because
I saw that.
she said that. and I found that I was honored. I'm like, you're comparing me with Dr. Mansur? Are you kidding me? Like, okay, but how like I found this day and age it's so important for building foundation with families. So, what is your advice for families and for people who are stuck at home, living in this fear and not knowing what to do because it's such an unpredictable world?
Mm.
How would you go about telling them that, you know what, we have to keep going forward, we have to be moving forward, and with your students and with, I don't know if some of them got to graduate or not.
Mhm.
How did that all work out? Like, how do you see them moving forward to now finding jobs because so many people got laid off? And so for me, the question is education.
Mhm.
I find that old school mentality is that you have to go to university, get this education, but
Mhm.
do you actually, I see that you speak to students at schools and you go
Mhm.
in and you speak to them.
Yes.
I think that the shift has changed, that it's not just about only going to university.
Right.
With cybersecurity, it's such an up and coming thing.
Mhm.
Um, how do you discuss that with, like, do you actually talk to parents as well or just the students?
Excellent question. I do talk to parents. So
Okay,
as soon as somebody is accepted, I get a list of all those people, and
right.
then I send an email out to them. Many of them reach out themselves. Many of their parents reach out, and all
Okay,
that. So I talk to everybody, and it is important to be accessible, like you mentioned.
yes.
And also, we talk about how the external engagement is so important. So you probably saw last week, one of my current students was actually featured. And as a matter of fact,
Yes.
in this particular episode, two of my former students
Oh, wonderful.
are right here. So you're going to meet Harminder Virk next, and then you're going to meet Nal Fatou Toure, both of whom were my former students. So a lot of this education happens outside the classroom. So I teach them about personal branding, being successful, networking, all of those things. So over here during this episode, my message has been that focus on what you can control. You can control your actions. You cannot control all these other things that are going on. But what you
Correct.
can do is never stop learning. And learning is open to you through this internet and computer and this magic. So as long as that is available,
Yes.
I mean, look at what I'm doing. My activity is actually increased because you have to keep moving, doing positive things. So part of the reason I even did this series is because I invited anybody to come, because the thing is that I want it to be accessible even as a consultant or career advisor, whatever way people wanted to use my resources, they're welcome to come. I even want to talk about how to cope with layoffs, because I know that that is another issue. I personally have
Right.
experienced that and I know how to handle it. So I would advise on those things also. So that's what I would say is during this time, use the time to network, learn, because so much of learning is basically free.
It
So anyway,
I
is.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh,
okay,
that's my mama. Thank you. Hi,
all right.
mommy.
So this is fantastic talking with you. Now I'm going to bring in Harminder Virk, who was my former graduate student. Harminder, are you in the
Thank
Are
you
you
so much.
here? If so, then
Yes.
unmute yourself and say hello and introduce yourself for 2 minutes.
Okay. The first of all, I want to say hi everybody, and thank you very much, Professor Mansur, giving me opportunity to speak on the conversation with Dr. Cybersecurity. So I am a former student of Dr. Mansur at UMBC, and I recent graduate from the University of Maryland, my master degree of cybersecurity. Presently, I'm working as a lab technician. I'm working as a part-time. I don't have a medical degree, but I am working on a manufacturing side. And side by side, looking for a job in cybersecurity field, preparing myself in a certification exam. Now I have a time. This is my third virtual event I am attending today, because I Dr. Mansoor give us a encouragement while I'm studying in the University of Maryland. Attend maximum events, do expand your network, talk to the people, and then you get an idea. You can get an idea, and you know what is going on in the market, what I have to learn, what I have to do to get a land a cybersecurity job. So
Mhm.
today I would like to talk about cybersecurity, how I get a cybersecurity job. Not myself. I have another colleague
Mhm.
as a fresh graduate. I have a degree, but I still student have a challenge to get a cybersecurity job. So why? Because the company expecting so much. I have a degree. When I look the description of the job, company want 1 year experience, minimum 1 year experience, and they are also expecting the student have a master degree, student have a certification and experience. How we do all these, how we face all these challenges of one, because you know everything takes a time. It takes me 3 and 4 years to complete my degree, so now I am working on my certification. So how I get experience if anybody not ready to give me a job? That is my first question. Thank you.
Sure. One of the things that I would recommend for you is, instead of looking for jobs, look for companies that you would like to work for. Too many people make the mistake of just waiting for a job to show up. Most often, the job that you would be appropriate for or you would be hired at may never even be advertised. So I would recommend that create a spreadsheet and put in the names of 30 companies around wherever they may be, because you might have a geographic boundary, I don't know, but minimum list of 30 companies that you would like to work for. Then go on LinkedIn to see if you have any connections in those 30 companies. You might not have a connection, but you might have a connection who has a connection. So maybe I have a connection on one of those 30 companies. Try to get introduced to some of those people, because your first job is to learn a little bit more about those companies, build a relationship. See, they don't know you from Adam. And when they see your resume, okay, within like 4 or 5 seconds, it might actually go into the round basket. So the way to stand out is to build a relationship. So once you identify, let's say, a contact in a company that you want to work for, that person may not have a job, but that person could be willing to host you to visit that company. So you could say, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about your company. Is there like a office of, sometimes they have an office of public affairs even, where, so for example, if you wanted to work for the Baltimore City Health Department, well, actually there is a public affairs office there. There's also a community office. You could go and talk to some of them, just visit, because some of these places, especially the government offices, are pretty much open. Those relationships might lead to jobs. They might say, oh, wow, you came to visit. Are you actually looking for a job? Suddenly the table is turned. Instead of you being one of several hundred people applying for one job, you are now single person going to 30 companies. So guess what? You have flipped the competition now. So that's one way.
Okay.
That's one way. You have to look at your strength. They may ask for all kinds of nonsense, and you know that this is all broken. Part of the reason they ask for all those things is they don't know cybersecurity. Because they say cybersecurity job, but if you ask them what is cybersecurity, they won't be able to define it. Because there are so many aspects of cybersecurity. What are they looking for? Most often they don't know. And sometimes they're not really interested in filling the job. For example, you're looking for a cybersecurity job, but in your case, with your personality, one of the things that I've noticed you do is you are very good at meeting with people.
I love to meet people.
Right?
Okay. I love to meet people. Thank you.
All this. So one of the things that you would be good at is really business development. Business development requires that kind of personality, but also the knowledge of cybersecurity. So you'll be able to understand what product they have and how that product fits in the cybersecurity space. So in your case, if you were to visit with vendors, in your case, I would target at least 30 vendors of products.
Okay.
And then try to get a business development job with those vendors. Many of these jobs are actually commission-based.
Yes.
All right. So if it's commission-based, they have nothing to lose. But with your personality, you might actually become a very, very high-paying business development person.
The problem is that the difficulty, it is hard to get foot door in the company. So that is, I'm giving the interviews and trying slowly everything what they want, what the job description.
What kind of jobs have you given interviews for?
So that is really a good question, because in the cybersecurity is very broad field. So I'm also not sure myself. They have a pen tester, they have a SOC analyst. So they have they have a policy.
That is the first step for you.
Architecture.
You have to narrow down where is it that you want to make your mark. You have to figure that one out. Because I don't know your passion. I don't know what you're really going to enjoy. And that is the first step. If you talk to one of my other graduates, Katia Dean, she actually has a business on this, advising people on that. And that's the first thing she tells me.
I would like to talk if you give me a guidance.
Well, she has been holding all these sessions. You should attend one of our sessions where she does a resume workshop and stuff like that. She's also a very giving person, just like me. She has been trying to do her best to do this. Obviously, she cannot spend the time with thousands of people, but you should connect and build relationships. And then first thing, right now she has a book, read her blog. First thing she says is narrow down where is it that you want to work. See, in my case, I decided it was going to be leadership. If somebody tells me to teach them encryption, I won't do it.
Yes.
Right? My strength is cybersecurity leadership, overall strategy. So I am not going to teach, say, an ethical hacking course. I will be zero interest for me. Can I do it? Yeah, I probably can do it. But NAFA might be better at it.
So, Professor, does networking help to get a job or land a job, or does any hiring
Most jobs come through networking. 80% of the jobs, even today, come through networking. Many of them are never advertised. My current job, I would never have known about it unless somebody told me about it. And that only happened because they heard about the major layoff at UMGC. So my friend said, oh, they had this major layoff, so maybe they may be looking for jobs. So they just sent it to me. And it just so happened that I applied and the timing was just perfect.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so networking is incredibly important. Same thing on LinkedIn, all the networks. I mean, all the connections that we're making with people. Every time I hear of a job, I click like, so my network should be able to see it. So if you're following my feed, you should be able to see those jobs.
Yes, I saw some of the post on your LinkedIn account. Yes, I did.
Yeah. So those are the other ways. What else?
So that's, I have a question regarding, because I know the cybersecurity is right now is a hot market, but still they have a fresh student face a difficulty to get a job because we don't have a confidence what the company want, and we are also hesitate because in my class I just learn and I don't have a hands-on experience. So that is the main things. So I have no idea what kind of the work company want and what kind of the company work they have.
No, but before they want something, you have to decide what you want, right? In my classes, you understood what cybersecurity is. There's the policy side, there's a people side, there's a technology side. Which side do you want to work on? If I would advise you,
my search, how you advise me instead of going everywhere to have to narrow my search and work according to
correct. In your case, many of the jobs won't even be called cybersecurity, especially if you go into the business development jobs. So you have to forget about the title.
Okay.
Look at the function that you're trying to do. Okay. And your function might be business development, maybe sales. See, business development, sales, it's kind of similar, but it's all about relationships. But you also have to understand that space. Where does your product fit in? And then how does it compare? Because you know how to compare products, don't you? You can write a white paper comparing products. Those are things that you've learned in class.
Yes.
So you have to figure out where is it.
Okay. Maybe I have talked to the Katia. Maybe she advised me and check my resume, how it's look, what I have to do. So what is
really, you have to figure out what is it that you enjoy about this field. Which aspect of the field that would you enjoy? Katia won't be able to help you because Katia doesn't know what you like. You have to figure out what you like. For example, if you feel like your weakness is in the technical aspects, well, what's stopping you from building a technical lab in your home right now?
Okay.
Right? You can buy all kinds of machines. Raspberry Pi machines are $30 each or something like that. I mean, you can, Kali Linux is free. So you want to do hacking tools, you can do that. So, I mean, everything depends on what it is that you want. If you feel like that's an area of weakness that you have, well, you can strengthen it. Okay. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things that a faculty member that I'd hired some time ago, when I first interviewed her, she had a weakness on the technical side. I told her during this 1 year, I said, strengthen this side. Here are the things that you should be doing. And I didn't know that 1 year later, a same job would have opened up. But by that time, guess what? She had already strengthened herself so much that the next time she applied for the job, she was the best candidate.
So how I do these things? Can I learn myself, or do I have to take classes? Do I have to take classes? Okay.
And there are lots of classes for free also. Kali Linux, YouTube is your big friend.
I know.
Yeah. YouTube will teach you how to build a Raspberry Pi computer, how to install Linux, how to hack with some of these Kali Linux tools. Everything is out there. There's so much free knowledge out there. It's just simply unbelievable. And then your brain is already at the complex level. You have a master's degree already. So you see your brain is already developed at that level where you can now do all this complex analysis and learning and all that. So your learning can never stop.
I know the Cybersecurity is also this resource where we can.
Cybersecurity is good, and most of Cybersecurity is no longer free anymore, unfortunately. But there's still a whole bunch of other places that are free. I have posted things on that also. There are lots and lots of free learning sites where you can go and continue learning. I believe Nalfa too did some of that. She even won a hacking competition because she continued her learning after getting the degree.
Oh wow, that is.
I mean, that is amazing.
Yes, I know that.
She and her friend Thelma, they were first in a hacking competition. Blew my mind and made me so proud.
Oh wow, that is really good, Nafa.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, she's now
congratulations
for Stevenson University's ethical hacking team.
Oh wow, okay. That's great.
So these are all things that you can do on your own, right?
Okay, thank you very
much. What else? We have time for one more question. If you have one more question, we can.
No, so the last question, you already covered everything.
Okay.
So I just want to give what advice you give a fresh graduate to land a job in a final year. They can prepare themselves for a job. Then after,
have confidence in your knowledge and know what you want. That is the key. If you don't know what you want, then everything is going to be helter-skelter. You're kind of feeling like you're at their mercy. Remember, you're in a field where you should be able to define what you want, and that is all you're willing to do. You can't be willing to do too many things.
Yes, I got you.
Right now, if somebody were to offer me a CIO job, I would not take it, right? I don't want to do it. I'm not looking for a job. There are only specific things that I'm willing to do right now.
I got your point. I have to focus on what I have to do, what I want to do.
What is it that you want? Because you've been doing it for a long time. That has to be your passion.
That's good.
Well, okay, wonderful seeing you, Harminder. Fantastic to meet you.
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for everybody. And again, thanks giving me opportunity to come here. Thanks, Professor.
Great. So now,
and I'm listening to the next presenter.
I would like you to unmute yourself and come in and introduce yourself. And Harminder, you should mute yourself right now.
Hi everyone, my name is Nal Fatuture. Thank you, Dr. Mansur, for having me today. Like I said, my name is Nal Fatuture. You can call me International Cybersecurity Aficionado. That's my hashtag. Dr. Mansur gave me that name because of my passion. Dr. Mansur gave me that name because of my passion that I have it's giving cybersecurity awareness to African countries, especially West African countries. There's a vast lack of awareness back there. That was one reason why I study cybersecurity. I understand that mentorship is very important during our career, our cybersecurity career, and I've gained a lot of knowledge from Dr. Mansur being my mentor all year round. That's why I'm offering I'm volunteer as a mentor at the Stevenson University with their Capture the Flag team.
Wonderful.
I like learning even when I stop going to school. I'm still learning. I like to attend conferences to gain more knowledge. In that conferences, I've met a lot of people like the mayor of Maryland, the first lady of Maryland. That was where I met Dr. Mansur also.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Basically, that's it. I'm ready to ask my question now.
You did a great job with networking, because I remember even the very first time when you were in my class, you actually came to a DGI conference in Washington, D.C. And you were the only student ever to
that was where I met you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was where I met you for the very first time.
Right, right.
But that was where I met you.
Right, and that was very impressive. And that kind of set you on that path of networking, meeting lots of people, and
Yeah.
wonderful. So what do you want to talk about today in Alpha 2? It's been wonderful to see you again.
So, my very first question, like I said, the main reason why I study cybersecurity is because of the lack of awareness in African country,
Mm.
especially my country, Sierra Leone, where I came from.
Mhm.
So, my very first question is, what do you what do you think that the government should do to create cyber awareness in West African country?
Well, the government may or may not. Well, see, often remember the governments of countries often have a political motive. All right. And sometimes it's how long they can stay in power. You may be better off if your goal is to foster education, you may be better off going to the universities, the educational institutions, and see if you can help them maybe author courses, review their courses, or connect with others who might be able to help them review their courses. Now, you would also probably want to make relationships with, say, the Ministry of Education, because almost every one of these countries have a Ministry of Education. And maybe that Ministry of Education's job is to create and foster education. So, but then going to those ministries of education through the universities sometimes is useful, but you can try on your own. A lot depends again on your connections. Could you maybe go to the embassies here and see if they, because usually they will also have an educational secretary or somebody at the embassy. As a matter of fact, many of these embassies, at least during normal times, would even host conferences. I remember the British embassy did that one time. I believe the Canadian embassy did that, German embassy. All these various embassies will often host. They sometimes call them like trade missions and stuff like that, where they will invite their companies, but they will also bring in American companies to kind of talk and see if there are opportunities for collaboration. So those are possible ways.
Like you stated, Dr. Mansur, that was one thing I'm trying to work on because my country, none of the colleges don't offer any program in cybersecurity. So one of the reason I'm going back is to talk to the university to see how well they can implement cybersecurity in any of their courses. So thank you very much.
Yes, and you can offer to give a talk on that, right?
Yeah.
So one of the ways you can volunteer your services, again, to make these inroads is you can say, I would like to talk about cybersecurity, explain the cybersecurity, and you can use the model in my book and all that and prepare your own presentation around that. 30-minute presentation, that'll be very valuable. I would recommend that you start with a webinar.
Yeah.
Instead of just going there, see if you can entice them to attend a 30-minute webinar session with you. So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so my other question is, you know, during this pandemic, there's a lot of fake news, leak information, high-profile information going around. What do you think that cybersecurity, do you think that cybersecurity professional has a role to play in that aspect, and what role can we do?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is something that I have mentioned to many of my students who at least have the ability to do software development. This is, I think it's a huge business opportunity, because if you could develop a tool whereby the authenticity of information was given a score, then that tool could be very valuable. I know that there are, I think the museum had a group that was doing that with news. So when something was fake news, they were actually trying to give a score on that. So I believe that this is a huge opportunity. Yes, I believe cybersecurity professionals have a responsibility to to tell the members of the public the integrity of the news, because integrity is truth, right? And you know, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability are some of the key aspects of cybersecurity, right? So here goes the integrity aspects. I believe that that's a huge opportunity. If you can find some software developers who could create a cloud-based service whereby everything could be filtered through or given a stamp of approval, you could become almost like the United Laboratories. So you see almost every product, there is a UL code of safety and all that, right? So for news or information, that is a very vital thing that I think we need.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. One more question for African countries.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have heard about 419s, online dating scam, all these things. They happen a lot back home in African countries.
Okay.
What way can you advise to people out there in order to protect themselves from these scammers, online dating scammers, 419s?
I don't think I am the right person for that.
So just give a basic advice. What I can do or someone else can do to protect themselves from scamming.
Well, I think that do research, ask people. So for example, most of the time, I have actually seen some scams where people have used, say, my connections, and they've said, hey, Dr. Hasib is speaking at this conference. Would you like to speak at this conference also? And basically it's a scam. And what they want is that person to pay some money or maybe buy a ticket or to the conference in the hopes that they're going to be speaking at this big event, but often there is nothing. So what I've basically said is that if you get something that says, hey, so-and-so is speaking, well, verify with that so-and-so if that person is known to you. So luckily this did happen. So somebody one of my connections reached back to me and says, Dr. Hasib, I heard you're speaking at this event and da-da-da, and I've been asked to speak also, should I go? I said, yeah, that person did reach out to me, but I never agreed to speak with them. I figured it didn't look legitimate because they were not willing to pay anything. As a matter of fact, they wanted me to pay. So I said, I don't pay to speak.
And Dr. Masood, I remember a story. Remember when I was in doing my graduate school, you called me on my cell phone asking me if I was the one asking you for money because somebody asked in my email, yes, demanding money from you.
Right.
I thought I was in trouble.
Yes. 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 Yeah, those things happen all the time, and you just kind of have to do your due diligence and things like that. And actually, Tomiko might be a good person to know more about that. Maybe at some point, because she's actually joined a company where they are helping people, I guess, recover from being scammed. So I'm assuming that she may also know more prevention things. But that's a good.
That's a good background.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Great. So you should talk to Tomiko afterwards. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, talk to me afterwards because I can tell you some things.
There you go. See? I have my network of experts in almost every area, even though I may not be an expert in that area, right?
Yeah.
What else, Nalfa, too?
So since we're talking about hacking, people think that cybersecurity is just all about hacking. They never define it as the way you define it, as people, processing, and technology. So can you enlighten and elaborate on that's your definition of cybersecurity?
Sure, I can absolutely do that, but I would also encourage each of you to do that also. So Katia is doing this, Tomiko is doing this, but I need every one of you. See, that's why my work is already out there. You need to explain to everybody, because you have your sphere of influence, that cybersecurity is more about people than it is about technology.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people first, because people choose technology, people configure technology, people teach other people to use the technology. So therefore, without the people, you can never do this. And then let us say that you don't have the people, then what's going to happen? You're going to buy the wrong technology, which happens all the time, right? Your chief financial officer buying technology. Actually, vendors love to sell technology to chief financial officers. Why? Because they're usually not qualified to figure out if this is the right technology or not. So whatever they say, and most often they will say, oh, we're giving you a 40% discount, 50% discount, which is like music to a CFO's ears. So they're like, oh, wow, well, we're getting a good deal. But they don't know that they're actually buying an obsolete equipment. I see this all the time. So my thing is that companies need to understand that they need to hire a qualified person, have those people in the organization, then those people will figure out whether you need to buy technology or not. Most of the time, you don't even need to buy technology. So the whole field of cybersecurity is, by the way, one word. So that's another thing. I've seen people spell it many of ways, right? They spell it with a space, cyber space security, or they will say cyber-security.
Even when you type on Word,
Yeah.
if you put it together, it will highlight that it's a mistake.
Yeah. So cybersecurity is, first of all, also about the mission. So cybersecurity is mission focused, risk optimized governance of information, which maximizes confidentiality, integrity, and availability using a balanced mix of people, policy, and technology, while perennially improving over time. So that perennial improvement is also very important. You cannot stay static. So that is why I also often say that cybersecurity is people-powered perpetual innovation, because it's people who do the innovation, right? And then mission focused. Why mission focused? Because I will never do the same strategy for two radically different organizations. For example, healthcare organization. Their needs are different. The strategy is going to be different. I'm not going to do the same thing that I did at a nuclear power plant at the healthcare organization, or if it's my neighborhood mom and pop pizza shop, or even Domino's Pizza, bigger pizza company. I'm not going to do the same strategy. I've got to say, how do I enable their business? So it's more about business enablement and digital strategy. The protection part is given. So a lot of the cybersecurity professionals, what are they focused on? They're focused on security. You will see they're equating cybersecurity with security. That is the wrong way to approach it, right? It's always about business enablement, business success, making money. Oh, by the way, the protection of the security or whatever else you're going to do, you can't do security. You have to do what is called risk management. Because you might have 100 risks, you can only fix 5 of them. So you're probably going to fix the most important 5 in your first year because there's a cost. You can't do everything, right? Sometimes the mitigation, the risk mitigation is more expensive than the risk itself, right? So let's say your risk is $10,000. Well, you wouldn't spend $20,000 mitigating a risk of $10,000. So this is the key thing, and you need to explain that also. You see, anytime somebody makes a mistake about this, you need to say, let me explain to you what cybersecurity really is. And then you go about explaining it in the way I explained it, and then ask them, what do you think of that? Do you have any objections to that? If so, what is the objection? If they say, oh, it's about hacking, then say, what about all these other things?
Yeah. And people is very important because they are the weakest link.
And that is the other thing. So people are also kind of looked down upon as the weakest link. But as you know, if we train the people, if we educate the people, they can be our greatest strength. That is the way I always ran organizations, by hiring people and then continuously pouring water on them, nurturing them so they keep growing, right? They keep growing because people become more valuable over time. And as they become more valuable, guess what? They're giving me more value.
Okay.
So fantastic talking with you. Nalfatu Toure, International Cybersecurity Aficionado.
I think I have a personal question for you, Dr. Mansur.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes. So when next are you inviting me over for Thanksgiving dinner?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I guess you're the only one who can ask that question because you've already had a Thanksgiving dinner at my place. Well, I would say the very next time all this is done, anybody who's around and if we're around in Thanksgiving, you're welcome.
And we should have all the cyber divas ladies out there.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That was the best question I've received in this episode so far. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. I'm going to stop the recording.